His teacher was in the middle of explaining how bees work in class. Suddenly, she blurted out a whole ad.
Kids love honey. That's why parents love honey nugs. Whole grain chunks covered in golden Tupelo honey. The sweetest way to start your day. Honey nugs from Ditta.
The weirdest part? After saying it, she acted like nothing had happened.
Honey nugs.
What are those?
The sweetest way to start your day.
Okay, if you say so.
After class, one kid came up to her and told her that his parents were about to get divorced. As a caring teacher, Amanda comforted him like she always did. But out of nowhere, she started pitching a Christian counseling website, leaving the poor kid totally confused. But things had been different a few months ago. She used to be a normal elementary school teacher. Hardworking, responsible, and loved by her students. Her husband Mike was a welder. They weren't rich, but they were happy and deeply in love. Going out for a nice dinner or catching a show once in a while was more than enough for them. Life was simple, cozy, and good until disaster struck. One day, while Mike was working at the factory, his boss suddenly told him that Amanda had an emergency and that he needed to get to the hospital. Fast. Mike dropped everything and rushed over. By the time he got there, Amanda was already in the ICU. The doctor told Mike they had found a deadly tumor in Amanda's brain, and it was too late. The tumor had already invaded critical areas, and there was nothing they could do. Mike couldn't accept it. He begged the doctor to save his wife. The doctor, seeing how desperate he was, hesitated, then mentioned a tech company that might be able to help. Not long after, a representative from a company called Rivermind showed up. Gaynor explained that they could replace Amanda's damaged brain tissue with their company's server technology, and Amanda could wake up again. Of course, Mike was skeptical and questioned whether it was safe. But Gaynor reassured him, saying she herself was one of Rivermind's first users. She had survived a horrible car accident thanks to their tech and was now living normally, even working. Seeing that Gaynor seemed just like any other person, Mike was tempted but worried about the cost. They were just regular people. How could they afford something like this? But Gaynor told him not to worry. The company was still expanding, so the surgery would be completely free. All they had to do was pay a $300 monthly subscription fee to keep using the service. $300 a month to bring Amanda back? Mike didn't even hesitate. He agreed immediately. Thanks to Rivermind, Amanda woke up. But on the way home from the hospital, she started worrying about that $300 a month. It wasn't insanely expensive, but it wasn't cheap either. From then on, they had to live carefully, saving money, working overtime, and doing everything they could to make it work. Amanda went back to teaching in no time, and Mike's days grew longer and longer. Soon, their wedding anniversary came around. Mike wanted to treat Amanda to a nice meal at their favorite hotel. But the moment they drove out of their county, Amanda suddenly passed out. Mike freaked out and rushed her back, and as soon as they crossed back into their county, she woke up like nothing happened. Completely confused, they went to Rivermind the next day. Gaynor explained that Amanda had simply gone out of service range. If they wanted her to work outside the county, they needed to upgrade to the plus tier. Otherwise, with their current common tier, Amanda could only function within the county. Mike got mad, saying they were promised global access when they signed up. Gaynor just smiled and said she hadn't lied. She said they would have global access in the future, meaning when the plus tier launched. And now it had launched. Mike had no choice but to ask how to upgrade. Gaynor said it was simple, just $800 a month. Mike and Amanda were stunned. They were already barely making it work with $300. $800 was impossible. In the end, they decided to stick with the common tier. They just wouldn't leave the county. But soon, other problems started popping up. Amanda began sleeping longer and longer, but always felt exhausted. And every now and then, in the middle of a conversation, she would suddenly blurt out random ads.
Have you tried espresso grande? The beans are roasted slow and long for a richer, smoother taste.
Can't say that I have.
Can't say that you have what?
So they went back to Gaynor. But Gaynor calmly explained that this was perfectly normal. It was just advertising implantation. Amanda couldn't accept it. They were using her to broadcast ads. Had they gotten her consent? Gaynor nonchalantly pulled up hundreds of pages of user agreements, pointing out that in line 78 of page 165, there was a small print stating that they had the right to use customers for advertising purposes. But don't worry, these ads were tailored to the customer's situation. If Amanda didn't want to hear these ads, she could upgrade to the Plus version and avoid them entirely. Amanda refused to just give in and turn down Gaynor's offer. But from that point on, the ads became even more frequent.
Hot new fall Nikes, just $200 now at Foot Locker.
They started to affect her work, and she even introduced dating ads in front of the principal. When she got home, Amanda told Mike about what happened at school. The principal had given her a final warning. If she kept showing ads at school, she would be fired. Now, they were in real trouble. If Amanda lost her job, they wouldn't even be able to afford the basic subscription anymore. Mike thought for a moment and said he'd figure something out. Have you ever thought about what the world would be like if brain chip implants actually became a reality? That's exactly what the latest season of Black Mirror explores. Amanda was diagnosed with a brain tumor over a year ago, but by the time they found it, it was already too late. The doctors couldn't do anything to save her. Luckily, a tech company called Rivermind had just developed a new technology. If they implanted their device into Amanda's brain, she could survive. Her husband agreed immediately. After all, the surgery was completely free. They just had to pay a $300 monthly subscription. At first, Amanda recovered well. She even went back to teaching. But over time, she started sleeping more and randomly blurting out ad slogans. Turns out, because she was on the common tier, the company had the right to use her to play ads, and the only way to stop it was to upgrade to the $800 a month plus tier. At first, Amanda and Mike decided to just deal with the cheaper plan. They were an ordinary working couple. $800 a month was way out of their budget. But soon, the ad interruptions got more frequent and even started affecting Amanda's job. Her principal warned her that if it happened again, she'd be fired. And if she lost her job, they might not even be able to afford the $300 plan anymore. Desperate, Mike remembered a sketchy site his coworker had mentioned, Dumb Dummies. On that site, streamers do humiliating challenges for money. Sometimes, just one dare could earn them $200. So, to save his wife, Mike gave it a shot. He streamed for one night and managed to make enough. Watching Amanda standing by the window, blankly reciting ad slogans, he picked up the phone and subscribed to the $800 plan. When Amanda asked where the money came from, Mike didn't tell her the truth. He just said it was from working overtime. The good news? The ads stopped. But Amanda started sleeping even longer. Concerned, the couple went back to Rivermind to ask what was going on. The rep, Gaynor, explained that it was just a firmware update. The sleep time had increased to 12 hours. She said it was actually good for Amanda's health. Amanda disagreed. She woke up feeling more exhausted than ever. That's when Gaynor finally admitted it. While Amanda was asleep, Rivermind servers were using her brain's idle processing power to handle other tasks. Amanda was shocked. She was a plus-tier user. Wasn't that supposed to come with benefits? Gaynor smiled and said that was exactly why she was getting this premium treatment. She added that common-tier users now had to sleep 16 hours a day and still had to deal with endless ads. Then Gaynor shifted to full-on sales mode, explaining that if Amanda wasn't satisfied, they had the Premium Lux service. It offered even shorter sleep times, enhanced sensory features, and even the ability to adjust her mood through the app. And for loyal users like Amanda, Gaynor mentioned there was a special discount. If she paid an extra $1,000 a month, she could get the Premium Lux service. Hearing that, both Mike and Amanda were stunned. They could barely afford the $800 plus plan. How were they supposed to come up with $1,800 every month? Seeing they really didn't have the money, Gaynor offered another option. She said they didn't have to subscribe monthly. There was also an hourly version of the Premium Lux service. They could go home and think about it. Back at home, Mike was torn. Their anniversary was coming up, and he wanted to surprise Amanda with something special, so he went back to streaming on Dumb Dummies. One viewer offered him $500 if he took off his mask. Mike didn't hesitate, he took it off. On their anniversary, he took Amanda out for a little getaway. On the way, he told her to open the glove compartment. Inside was a 12-hour Premium Lux trial card. She scanned the QR code with her eyes, activated it instantly, and adjusted the brain settings in the app. Her happiness level shot through the roof. Amanda felt like she was floating. Everything suddenly looked amazing. Even the spicy food tasted heavenly. A mediocre live performance sounded like pure magic. But those 12 hours flew by. The next morning, Amanda woke up back on the Plus plan. They thought things could go back to normal, but life had other plans. When Mike went to work, he saw screenshots of his Dumb Dummy stream plastered all over the office. He got fired on the spot. At home, Mike broke the news to Amanda, but didn't mention anything about the live stream. Amanda was worried if Mike had no job, how were they going to pay for the Plus plan? She didn't want to go back to blurting out ads all the time. Mike said maybe they could talk to Gaynor, ask for some kind of grace period. But deep down, they both knew it was a long shot. Rivermind didn't do charity. Gaynor flat out refused. This wasn't their problem. If they didn't have money, they could come back when they did. Amanda begged. Mike had just lost his job, and if she got bumped back to the common tier, she'd be fired too. Then they wouldn't even be able to afford the $300 plan. But Gaynor cut her off and said actually the basic plan had recently been downgraded to a full-time ad-only version. No features, just ads. With no other choice, they decided to dip into their baby savings just to stay afloat for now. But when Gaynor overheard them talking about having a baby, she reminded them that Amanda would need to purchase the maternity add-on. Pregnancy affects the cerebral cortex and puts more strain on the servers, so that would be an extra $90 a month. They couldn't believe their ears. That was the last straw. Mike and Amanda stormed out. Right after they left, Gaynor, maybe feeling a little bad, pulled out her phone and turned her nonchalant levels all the way up. And just like that, she felt a whole lot better. Another year went by just like that. After everything they'd been through, Mike and Amanda looked so much older. Mike ended up selling the baby crib they had once picked out so carefully. He thought the buyer was preparing for a baby, but it turned out they were just going to burn it as a prop for a video. Mike gave a helpless smile, revealing his teeth. You could easily guess how many challenges he'd taken on dumb dummies over the past year. Since they couldn't afford the plus tier anymore, Amanda had to switch back to the most basic common tier. She spent about 80% of her day asleep, which really meant the company was using her brainpower to process server data. When Amanda finally woke up, Mike pulled out a special anniversary gift, a 30-minute premium Lux service card. She scanned the code, topped it up, and maxed out her serenity level, finally getting a moment of real peace and calm. As the time was running out, Mike held her hand and said goodbye.
I love you.
I love you too.
And that's the end of Black Mirror Season 7, Episode 1. I was honestly blown away by this episode. A lot of people on Letterboxd said it's about the madness of subscription fees, but to me, it's more than that. We're already kind of living in Amanda and Mike's world. Technology isn't just serving us anymore. We're starting to depend on it completely. Endless pages of unreadable terms and conditions. Every second of our time getting eaten up by ads. This episode just takes the tension between humans, tech, and capitalism and pushes it to the extreme. Drop your thoughts about this episode in the comments, and see you in the next movie.